I'm Jamie S. Rich. I've been working in comics for 20 years. Join me as we dig a little deeper into how comic books are made and get to know the people who make them. This is From the Gutters.
Do you have much of a comic scene there?
There's a huge comic scene. There's like some incredible, we have 15 people in our studio, and not all of them do comics. Carl Kerschel sits across from me. I have Cameron Stewart's old spot because he moved to Berlin. So he's in Germany right now.
Tough life, yeah.
Hard.
Cameron Stewart.
Hard stuff. So I took his spot, and I think his desk is still there. I have one of his bookshelves.
Did you know when he had the English accent?
No, I didn't.
When I first met him, he was really cute, and he had this English accent.
Oh, adorable. I heard about the English accent days, the English accent of Cameron Stewart.
I don't know if he owns up to
Christmas
that.
last year. For Christmas last year, we found this book. It was like a romance novel. And it says The Many Sins of Lord Cameron.
Nice.
So like me and Andy Blanchet went to stay with him over Christmas for like a night or two, and he showed us around Montreal, and we like had a dramatic reading of The Many Sins of Lord Cameron. I like to think it was a biography.
So long-form comics, though, will be in your future, I assume. Like you're eventually going to write.
Yeah.
You're kind of just building to that level.
I'm building to it. I like working with writers still, so I'd like to, but that's why comics are so great, right? It's like you can do like, oh, I have this 8-page short story, or I have like a 3-issue story arc. That's something that's totally doable, but I want to start focusing, like funneling my writing energy into something longer.
What keeps drawing you back to Brian Wood?
He's great to work with. He's phenomenal. I think he writes for artists. So every artist that he works with, he thinks of a different, like, he plays to their strengths.
Yeah, like what's your communication process?
There's
like
no communication. I mean,
he just gets you now, and he writes to you.
Yeah. I think even since the beginning, it's like, when you just have a great working relationship with someone, you have great chemistry. Everything he writes, I can like when I read his script, I see exactly how to draw it, and it's like seamless from the words to the art.
Your guys' Conan was like I think I was telling you earlier, I could not care less about Conan. I never did. Never even seen the full Schwarzenegger movie.
Oh, what? Are you crazy?
I know, I'm crazy. I was like, let's...
Okay, well, let's just be real for a second. It's real talk about Conan, and this might make some people angry, but I don't think that the Arnold Schwarzenegger Conan is actually the real Robert E. Howard Conan, because it's a phenomenal film. It's amazing. It has some of the best, most quotable lines of dialogue, like, in the universe, and Arnold is great in it, and, but it's not how, whenever I read a Conan story, that's never how I pictured it. So let's just get that straight.
All right. Well, I would assume you have probably hardcore fans are like much more dedicated.
Some people did not like that comic at all. But my portrayal of Conan was like, oh, how dare you make Conan really pretty. This is how I read all the forum posts.
I was more paying attention to the Queen, so.
Oh, she was great. She was so much fun.
So, do you see more than with? Is Brian someone you're going to keep coming back to?
I would like to. He's really busy all the time, and
Yeah, he writes like 10 books.
Oh my God,
now.
I'm so excited about his X-Men book. It's ridiculous.
Yes, that's going to be great.
Yeah.
I forget what the actual subtitle is or is it just the X-Men?
I think it's just X-Men, yeah.
Which is because it's the all-female cast.
I know, it's just funny. It's like, I guess it's ironic. Is that ironic?
Probably a little bit.
I don't think it was intentional, though. It's just X-Men, but there's like a lot of ladies on the X-Men who...
How far ahead are you looking? Like, you're working on Killjoys now, or are you already set up for like what's next?
I've signed on already for a graphic novel with For Second that I am adapting. So I'm not full out like writing my own thing yet, because it's based on like a piece of, I don't know if it's classic literature, but it's definitely like,
And you can't tell us what that is?
I can't say. It's a Conan Doyle thing.
We won't have to let people know.
Yeah, it's so I'm really excited about that, but I'm hoping that's kind of like a segue into writing my own stuff.
Do you get stereotyped at all? Because like, for instance, you did the Batman with Scott Snyder. You did an issue, and it was great. But there was also the element of like, we got Becky Cloonan to draw like the girl that lives in the sewers and.
Oh yeah, but that's I guess maybe, but that's also perfect for me because I'm not a superhero artist, and I think that at this point, in my career, I've been doing this for. I got my first book published in 2001, so by now I kind of know my strengths and my weaknesses, and I'm not a superhero artist.
That's good, because I know other artists who've had that where they're like, this is a crazy idea. So-and-so that's known for drawing like super teen girl stuff can now draw something badass.
Yeah, no, maybe. I mean, I've been offered a few books that I've turned down because I felt like it was too up my alley. Like, that sounds awesome, but I'm not going to do it because...
Yeah.
you know.
I think it's important to know both ways. Yeah, one, it's like I've done enough of that,
Yeah.
or two, like, okay, that's nice that you think I can
will
do
draw,
that,
like,
but it's too far beyond
I will draw
it.
chainmail and swords like until the ends of the earth, though, because I'm all about that.
See, and if someone called me for that, I'd be like, yeah, you gotta call somebody else. I'm
I
not
love
your
it.
guy. I can't do it. I don't
love it.
understand it.
But I figured I've done enough like modern day comics that now I can just kind of go crazy and like live in my own little fantasy world. And
So I was asking about the comic scene in Montreal because I generally see you as a real champion for comics, and you love comics and other people's work. Like, do you see yourself as that, or is that just a natural?
I think that's just, you have to keep excited. Like I have to keep myself excited. So half of it might be what you're saying, and then the other half is very like for me, how do I get excited about this every day, you know?
Yeah, because you're like the Wu-Tang Clan. You've got the comics rule everything around me.
Oh yeah,
Slogan.
that's all I do. You just like, what do you have any hobbies? Well, I draw comics, and then I draw comics
And then you go to
after
the
I'm done
bar,
with
yeah.
drawing comics.
Yeah. So, I guess what were the comics then that you talked earlier? Like you're a '90s girl, but like what's the comics that you, when you're doing your own stuff, that you're kind of like, I want to be like that? You made a joke about One Piece, but I assume there's actually
Oh no,
stuff,
yeah, but that's, you know, when
but I
you're
assume
a
there's
kid,
actually
you want
stuff
that.
that you're like, this is kind of what I would like to have.
I think about all the like the longer format, like historical European comics, and you've got like Scorpion, historical, loosely, you know, the costume dramas and stuff, and Thorgal, and you know, just.
When you're writing your own stuff, is there? I mean, you did mention it being personal, so are you kind of funneling experience and feeling into
Yeah,
that?
but you would never know what it is based on, because it's changed so much from like my experience may not necessarily be the story that I want to tell, but it might inform the character's decision or something, like an event that happens in the story.
Is there like a feeling then you're chasing, like a drug almost, like, or gambling, like I gotta win.
It is habitual, you know, and I've talked to friends who, you know, I have friends that drew a lot, you know, when we were in college together and then stopped drawing. And they were like, well, I don't know how you do it all the time. And I was like, it's like habitual, right? You get up and you take a shower and you eat breakfast and you have coffee and then you draw. And it's like part of that schedule. You know, I should probably like start putting like working out into my schedule routine, because I talk to my friends who like work out all the time. And I'm like,
yeah.
you know, go up 5 flights of stairs and I'm like, oh, I'm winded.
No, I do it at the end of my day. Is I call it my commute.
Yeah.
Get out of the house and run, just to get away from my desk, because
Yeah.
otherwise I'm going to walk from my desk to the TV and,
Yeah.
and watch a movie to review.
Well, I'm lucky that we've got a studio, so the
Yeah.
studio is about like a mile from the apartment, so every day there's like a 2-mile hike, so that's not too bad. I mean, at least I'm getting that, but it's definitely, you know, drawing is the same thing. It's like exercising or like any other kind of, you know, thing that you want to get better at or you want to implement into your life more, like, oh, I should eat better, you know, oh, I should draw more comics.
But you say you're never happy with what you do. Is there kind of a point where you think you will be? Is there something you see on the horizon, like if I could get there?
You always have, there is always that, you know, dot on the horizon. If I could only draw, you know, X, Y, and Z, then I'll be happy. And then once you get there, you find out that, you know, oh, well, you know, there's something else that I can't draw that I could be drawing better, you know. And I'm lucky that I have friends that like call me out on it, you know. When buddies calls me up, you need to learn how to draw ears. Okay, yeah, that's true. So now I'm better at drawing ears because I have friends that'll call me out on my lazy ear drawing.
And I assume you have editors who at some point are like, you have to let this go.
Yeah,
You're done.
definitely. Shelley Bond was big on that when she did
Yes.
American Version. She's like, Becky, you need to learn how to draw chins. And I was like, you're right. They're out of control. You know, it's definitely things that you don't realize that you're drawing, like, not like ticks, you know, like drawing ticks, where you just get used to drawing something a certain way and it becomes like a lazy habit after years of doing it that way.
You'll find in
Yeah.
writing vocabulary and certain phrasings.
The same thing.
Yeah, you'll be like, oh, I've used that word so many times.
I've actually just been doing these mini comics. Same thing, where I'm like, oh, I need to learn they need to learn new ways of saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Or something similar in like a different way.
Do you have a favorite part of the process now? Do you prefer penciling to inking, for instance? or-
It depends on if I'm having like a good day or on penciling or inking. I mean, there's days when I'm like, I can't draw, but I'll ink really well. Or in days when like, you know, my brush is splitting and I'm like spilling my ink. I can't ink, and then I'm like, oh, I'll just draw.
So a typical day for you, will you jump between your two projects, or will you just focus on what's that you have one for the day or a certain goal?
A lot
for
of
the
times
day?
it's like one for the day. Like I work on this day and then like something else the next day. Or I'll split it up and be like, well, I want to, you know, pencil a few pages, 2 pages here, and then I'll go and like ink something over there. It just depends on how well it goes, because, you know, like so many days I have where, you know, you just can't draw anything. You know, it's like whatever is there is like not there, and then sometimes I try to tell myself, just walk away from it. Because that's what I used to tell, like, when I was
Yeah.
teaching, I tell my students, it's like, you tried that panel 3 times and it's not working, move on to the next one, or, like, start something else.
And I've seen artists they'll keep redrawing it over the same paper, same spot.
And then I feel like it has bad karma. Like,
Yeah.
that paper
Yeah,
now
you
is
kinda have to
fucked,
just get rid of that panel.
The whole, just, like, cut it out and draw something on a completely different thing, because now
Yeah.
you've put so much bad energy into that paper.
So
Yeah.
does writing then work for that for you? Or having multiple projects where like, okay, so today Batman's not working, so I'll work on
Yeah,
Wolves,
it helps.
or-
It helps a little bit. It's nice to have something else too that you're focused on. Because with the mini comics, it's like not only is it, just your own writing, but you have to worry about marketing and you have to worry about distribution, and so there's a whole different level. I've met so many like comic store owners, and like you get in touch with fans directly, and it's a totally different experience. Like, there's so much more to think about.
Well, and you're doing digital now as well.
Yeah.
So you're kind of just looking at the entire future.
I don't know
You're
anything
kind of,
about anything, so you have to try it in order to see if it works or not.
But yeah, you're gonna basically be the inspiration for somebody now, like a girl in New Hampshire who's like, I want to be Becky Cloonan, and write it,
Well,
draw
you
it,
can't
distribute
be
it.
me.
But you know what I mean.
I'm joking.
Write it, draw it, distribute it.
Yeah.
Everything. Like
Yeah.
you're kind of like right on top of that model of like being your own creator.
It's important to know, I think. As for me anyway, it's good because I think with comics you have to learn how to market yourself as
Yeah.
well. That's a big part of it, is knowing who your audience is, knowing who your readers are, and trying to get in touch with them.
Have you had yet someone come up that's like, I'm drawing comics because I read your comics?
Yeah, there's a lot of girls actually that did that. I had a few kids in my class that were citing me as inspirations, and it's awesome because of course I was that way.
Yeah.
I had that same thing.
You're there, Chris Claremont,
That's some big shoes to fill.
without the beard. So beyond digital, there's also like the motion comic type of thing. Wasn't there one of your Conan?
Yeah, Dark Horse put together like a motion. I think it was the same people that like produced the Guild. I want to say it's like they're involved in the Guild somehow.
Were there voices?
Yeah, there were voices. They animated my drawings.
What was that like?
That was crazy. It was weird because it didn't even look like it still looked like I drew it, but I was like, if I didn't know that I drew it, I would think that I had animated it because it looked really good. They did my stuff, and I think they did the James Herron, the 3 issues after mine.
I think the way it engages your imagination as a reader is
Yeah.
still going to always be specific to comics.
Yeah.
Because that movement it's creating for you, you're creating
Yeah.
already. So.
It's a lot to think about it. And, it's really, when you talk about digital and motion comics, and this is all stuff that's like uncharted territory. And we're kind of like making a new medium right now. So that's really interesting. But it's also like, I kind of like being a spectator for the whole thing. And I'm doing my thing right now that I'm comfortable with. And,
So your real dream is that someone will come and motion capture you for an actual video game.
for an actual video
The
game.
Becky Cloonan
Massive multiplayer
that
online
thing,
multiplayer
yes,
game.
that I'm too old to know what means.
What would it just be like? You'd sit around and draw comics all day? Like,
That'd be pretty. And then like the page emerges,
oh God.
hit the right button, and suddenly Conan looks sexy. So basically, the next thing for you is summer. So Killjoys is the next thing to come out.
Yeah, Killjoys. It's actually Free Comic Book Day is like the first one that comes out, and that's kind of like the Free Comic Book Day story it's tied in with Killjoys world, but it doesn't have any of the characters in it, so it's like its own little standalone thing.
And that's gonna be 6 issues, 5 issues.
Yeah, Killjoys is 6 issues, so it comes out in June, #1.
And so that's your next thing for the foreseeable future. Is
Yeah.
there anything else we should be watching out for?
Well, I'm definitely doing the first second book, but that probably won't be announced until like later on this year.
And then probably the time people see this, Demeter should be
Demeter will
available
be out,
to get online.
which will be like on Comixology and iTunes and all these places.
And directly from you.
directly from me as well. And then your comic store should be able to order them. So I'm working on it.
Fantastic.
I'm working on it.
Well, I'm glad you came to our town, and I'm glad we got to sit down and chat.
Thank
So
you.
thanks,
I love it
Becky.
here. I should come back more often.
Yeah, I agree.